This is 24. Remember to like, comment, favorite, and subscribe for more. So today I will be talking about the positive and negatives of 2016 as it comes to developers, because I truly believe that if something like an industry or a person isn't progressing, you are regressing. If you aren't getting better, you are getting worse. And today you'll start to see that with a lot of games that are on the negatives list and some games that are on the positives list. Now, I should mention that I will be starting with the negatives list and going to the positives list, because I want you all to end. I want this video to end on a high note and on a positive note. That being said, I didn't cover every single developer that released that wasn't very negative or that had a negative influence on the industry. I covered some of the most significant ones, some of the ones that actually matter and have power throughout the gaming industry, and I want you to be aware of that as I present these developers, both for positive and negative influences on the gaming industry. That being said, let's get started. First and foremost, Ubisoft. Ubisoft is one of like the big three of it has like, you know, there's this saying of the 7 deadly sins. Well, EA and Ubisoft and a couple of other developers like Square Enix, they're kind of like the big three sins of the gaming industry, and ironically I'll be covering all three of them today. But Ubisoft is like the first one because it's disguised itself in a wolf in sheep's clothing. It's constantly came out with games that excite you and that really have been, some of them have the reputation of a good game series, like the Assassin's Creed series. Assassin's Creed 2 was one of the best games that was released that year, if not the best, and it's easily the best one in the series. But you're buying these games, and I bought these games kind of on the reputation that Assassin's Creed 2 established, and Brotherhood, and Revelations, if you liked that game. And Ubisoft is now producing very bad games, and it's because, again, they are an annual release company now, especially with some of these series like Assassin's Creed and Far Cry, and they aren't progressing. They aren't doing anything new. They're regressing. It's the same thing over and over and over again. And Ubisoft has constantly stated for this year, or not this year, but last year in 2016, that they are taking time off for both the Far Cry series and the Assassin's Creed series to create a better game, because they have noticed in both Syndicate and in Far Cry Primal that those two games have taken a significant hit when it comes to their sales, and it's because of Unity, and it's because that was the straw that broke the camel's back. That was it. People were fed up with their games and their annual releases. So again, and I will always say this, if you affect their bottom line, they will listen to you. So now Ubisoft is taking a year off, or they have, and hopefully they will release the newest Assassin's Creed game and the newest Far Cry game this year, because I don't think you give them any and all amount of development time you want, they will still create a bad game. Mark my words and circle this date. And especially, I was not very impressed with what I saw last year with Watch Dogs 2 and Far Cry Primal. Both of those games were below mediocre at best. At best. At worst, they were terrible. They were broken. Far Cry Primal was terrible. You can't even say that Watch Dogs 2, well, you know, it was great. It was way better than Watch Dogs, the first one. Well, I would rather play Watch Dogs, the first one, 3 years ago, the version that they had shown, or not even 3 years, now it's 4 years ago, the version that they showed off at E3, because that one looked significantly better than the final release. And even Watch Dogs 2, that's sad. They have not progressed. If Watch Dogs 2 was on the level of the first one when it came to graphic fidelity and gameplay, I would not be having this conversation with you about Watch Dogs 2. I would still be having it on Far Cry Primal, but they haven't done anything significant. Like, doesn't it scare any of you that if you go back and you look at their game 3 years ago, 4 years ago, it looked better than it did today? And that's still concurrent. with what they're doing. They have not progressed. They have regressed, and they will continue to regress until they hit rock bottom financially. That is why Ubisoft is on this list. The next company that's on this list is EA. IGN, I think it always gives EA the worst American company of the year. It's a pretty prestigious award that EA always gets. They always get it. And I think that the reason why EA is on this list, and I know that they are on this list, is because, yeah, they released Battlefield 1 last year, and it was pretty great. What do you want, a cookie? So you release a good game, a great game, in 1 year, but all of your annual releases, like, do not make the mistake of thinking that the Battlefield series is not an annual release. Name 1 year in the past 4 years that a Battlefield game has not been released. Battlefield 3, Battlefield Hardline, Battlefield 4, now Battlefield 1. They have made the Battlefield series as an annual release series. But this one, Battlefield 1, is really good. And that's not why EA is on the negatives list. The EA is on the negative list for games like Madden, NBA Live, FIFA 17, and Battlefront. And I know Battlefront was released in 2015. I'm fully aware of that. But the DLC that they released, especially the Death Star mission, if you saw that mission, you would cry. It's a damn shame what they did to the Death Star. And with Madden and NBA and FIFA 17, all they've done is regress. There were channels on YouTube that were dedicated to playing FIFA and opening packs because it was entertaining. Now they don't, because they know that there's no way that they will pull actual cards that are useful. They won't pull a Ronaldo, a Messi, a Neymar. They won't pull good cards because EA has rigged the system so that way the algorithms in the game deny you great players unless you sink hundreds of dollars into their game, even though you've already purchased it at $60 retail price. And that's not to say that the gameplay has improved. It has not improved. It's the same thing. I bought FIFA 15 when I bought my PS4 because one of the YouTubers, KSI, was playing it. I bought it because he was playing it and it looked fun. I returned it eventually and I downloaded the demo for FIFA 7, I think it was FIFA 16. And the demo looks exactly on FIFA 16. The demo looks exactly the same as FIFA 17. So you're telling me that a demo for your game 2 years ago almost looks exactly the same as your game that you released last year? That is terrible. That is why EA is on this list. Unfortunately, next up, I guess fortunately, depending on if you hate this company, which a lot of people probably already do now, is Hello Games. Hello Games, if you are not aware of Hello Games, created the fantastic sci-fi adventure game known as No Man's Sky. Now, if you aren't aware of No Man's Sky was, and I'm sure you already are, No Man's Sky was released in August, I think it was August 10th or 15th, and Hello Games straight up lied to everyone. They lied. And you want to know something interesting? You know what? I don't know if I respect this or if I just think that this is a terrible business practice. I don't respect this, but it intrigues me that a month before the game was released, and it's not that Hello Games didn't know their game was garbage, it's that they knew that it was garbage, showed better footage in July, the month before the game was released, and still released their game and expected people to like it. I don't know if they were just so deluded with their game and that they were so full of themselves that they believed that people would actually like their game, even though it was a misrepresentation of what they've shown and said up until that point, or they just must be really stupid. And then on top of that, you have them going just deathly silent. for 3-4 months. Really, it's not until like the end of November, the beginning of December, that they want to now talk back to the people that have bought their game, that have sunk their own money and invested into their own game, thus their own company. And they say, you know what, we have the foundation patch, or whatever it's called. You can now play our game. It's borderline working now. It should have been working on August, or you should have delayed your game. I shouldn't have to wait 3 months after your game is released and paid $60 for your game to work because you are too corrupt and you either don't want to face your fans or the media because you know your game is terrible and you sold me a faulty product. You sold me a faulty product. You sold my viewers a faulty product. You sold everyone a faulty product, and you hyped your game up. Nobody hyped your game up. It was you who hyped it up, and you let us down. And you lied to us, and you cheated us. That is why not only No Man's Sky, but Hello Games is on this list. And I'm not done with them just yet. You thought I was, but I'm not done with them yet. The game director apparently had tweeted out, and apparently his Twitter was hacked. He had tweeted out that he hated that No Man's Sky was a mistake. Obviously it was. You didn't need to wait 2 months to tell me that, to tell us that. It was obviously a mistake. But you seem to just take a piss. You seem not to tell us anything. Why did you wait 3 months, 3 to 4 months, to tell us anything about your game? This guy just seems like he's taking a piss right now. Good God, I can't stand No Man's Sky, and I can't stand Hello Games anymore. Next on the list is Mighty No. 9. Now, and this is by Concept Games. Now, Mighty No. 9 and Concept Games, they don't have a lot of influence in the industry. They aren't a very big company. They were created. Mighty No. 9 is headed by the creator of Mega Man. And you're asking yourself, well, 24, why did you put such a small developer on your list of negatives? I thought you just said that you're only going to put developers on this list that can influence the gaming industry. Well, this one will. This is a terrible practice that Concept Games has put into place. Kickstarting, and really this isn't a foreign concept, but this is very foreign and very rare in video games, but I've never seen a game that has gotten this much money on a Kickstarter, where it's funded by the people, and the game is just so bad and it gets delayed so often. This game was announced in like 2014, 2013, something around there. That's when it was released that it was going to be on Kickstarter, and that was when I was in high school. I was thinking of investing money into it because I knew that it would go to a great cause, or I perceived that it was going to a great cause, that it would be made, my money would be put to a game that would be great. And unfortunately, it's not. And this concept of, okay, we're going to take your money and then we're going to have you purchase our game again, even though you may have given us like $30, and then we're going to put in an additional $60 for our game, is ludicrous. And then on top of that, it was delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed. And this concept of accepting money from your fans and then not delivering on them, or not delivering for them, and then giving them, and then charging them more money, is a concept that is very, very scary to me. And I don't, and this is why Concept and Mighty No. 9 are on this list. Because of this, because what you have to understand is that AAA developers and publishers are looking at smaller developers and publishers for innovative ways to not only improve their game, but to improve their bottom line. So they look at all of these smaller developers and smaller publishers for ideas to improve gameplay and to make more money. And if they look at this concept and say, you know what, we only have to have a really good, a really prominent game director, someone who has a series behind him, to create a Kickstarter for his game, and then we have the fans fund it. We don't even have to publish it, and we make so much money. Then we charge them again. That's just such a scary business practice. I had to put Concept Games and Mighty No. 9 on this list for that reason. Next up on the list is Naughty Dog. I know. I had to put it on the list. I don't like putting Naughty Dog on the list, but microtransactions. I will always say that microtransactions are a terrible gaming concept. They are just terrible. Microtransactions will ruin a game because it is a deliberate way of making money. Especially if you create barriers with microtransactions. If the gameplay isn't expedited, if it's slowed down because of microtransactions, I will always report on it. So Naughty Dog did something egregious. They put microtransactions in their game, in Uncharted 4, in their masterpiece. And I was just so disappointed because this was one of the game developers that released Uncharted 4, which, by the way, is easily the greatest game of 2016 this year. It's not Overwatch, I'm sorry, it's just not. And they also created a masterpiece, a timeless classic, in The Last of Us. Almost 3 years ago. 4 years ago, technically. So, I just don't understand, because the money will come. They create very great games. And even though it's a console exclusive, there are people that are just buying their games over and over and over again. You don't need to put microtransactions in your games. Naughty Dog, you don't need to do that. You create such great products that people will buy them. Don't put microtransactions in your game. This is a warning. Don't make me have to expose you. Don't make me have to do it. I don't want to do it, Naughty Dog. But I will if you put microtransactions in your next game. What will it be? I don't really know. But we'll find out later on. But I swear to God, do not put microtransactions in your game. Next up, Action Games. If you aren't aware of this developer, they are the developer that made the newest Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, Mutants in Manhattan. I cannot express to you how terrible it is to take a franchise that is established, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle franchise, and then create a series, because this isn't their first game, this is their second game that has been terrible. It's like whoever is the publisher of their game, it's like they just don't learn. They don't learn. Look at their last game. It was terrible. It was horrible. And they got a second game. That's like losing $1 million and then getting $2 million more to try and make up the $1 million that you lost, but it would be more favorable and it would be better for the company that gave the person $2 million to not even invest in their game again. This is a problem. This is a concept that you see year in and year out in movies. But for some ungodly reason, it's now transferring over to video games. You see this with series like the Transformers movie with Michael Bay. You see it with the Ghostbusters. You see it with RoboCop. There's just so many bad movies that are based off of just really cool, either comic books, TV shows that were made in the 80s, and movies, again, that were made like in the 80s. It's like, stop it. I don't need any more Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games. I don't need them. Do not make another one. Do not make another one. If I see another Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie, or not even a movie, Oh my god, there was the new movie, the Mutants Out of the Sewers, or whatever it was called. This, you know what, last year was just not a good year for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Oh, good god. Next up
This is bad, guys.
is Square Enix. So, remember at the beginning of the video I talked about how there's 3 big companies that kind of create and modify the industry, that have created and have modified the industry. That's Square Enix, Ubisoft, and EA. Those were the 3 companies that really just had control over the industry last year, and they kind of still do this year. Square Enix did something so egregious that I'm just flabbergasted with what they have done. So what they did was they had a game called Rise of the Tomb Raider release really in 2015, almost 2 years ago, for Xbox One. And the problem is that this is the second game in the new established Tomb Raider series. The first one was really good. It was very new. It was very cool. It was very graphic, but it was also very fun. And you had people on both consoles, on Xbox 360, PS3, and on PC, buying their game. And for some ungodly reason, Square Enix made a deal with Microsoft because Microsoft wanted another Uncharted game. They wanted a game that was exactly like Uncharted because Microsoft isn't creative enough to create their own Uncharted-like series. They didn't buy per se, they just paid the developer of the newest Tomb Raider game more money than Sony would, so that way they would get first dibs on their game. So that way Xbox One players would get first dibs on their game. And then it was PC. And then it was the longest for PS4. It was almost a year after the game was released that it came to PS4. Square Enix, get your shit together. I paid money for Tomb Raider. I paid money for the first one. And you have the audacity to say to me that I'm not worth it? I'm not worth you going the extra mile for not getting paid? I already paid for your game, and you don't want to give me the second game? I'm going to pay you for the second game, but you're going to hold me out for a year? Are you kidding me? I've never seen such a terrible business practice before as Square Enix did 2 years ago and last year with the Rise of the Tomb Raider. Are you kidding me? You know, and other companies did it too. I have to report on them too. Capcom did it with Street Fighter V, but Street Fighter V wasn't a good game. It was broken on release. It wasn't a good game. And Firaxis, technically 2K, did this with XCOM 2. They released it for PC in February, and they said that they didn't have plans until April, of course, because it's just making money, and it's just stupid not to release it on consoles, by the way. If you think that most of the gaming industry is on PC, you are dead wrong. You are dead wrong. I'm sorry to say that. But they originally had slated the release of their game only to be on PC. And then in April, they said, you know what, we're going to release it for a fall release. I paid money for XCOM Enemy. I even paid for that crappy DLC that really did not change the story, but I still loved XCOM Enemy Unknown and Enemy Within. And you have the audacity not to give me, you don't even have the consideration to put it on consoles, even after people have paid money for your first one, and then your crappy DLC. Now you want to ban me from buying your second one? Are you kidding me? Square Enix, Firaxis, Capcom, get your together. 2K is next on the list. 2K is exactly like what? Like Madden, Ubisoft, and somewhat Square Enix in the sense that they want to make money. And they want to do it with microtransactions. Exactly like Naughty Dog in Uncharted 4. They want to make money with microtransactions. And if I feel like I'm repeating myself, it's not because I'm talking about the same company. I'm talking about different companies that do the exact same business practice, and that's microtransactions. 2K does packs. And this year, for some ungodly reason, packs are terrible. They're exactly like Madden. They are exactly like FIFA. And it's just now that people are like, okay, well, I'm not going to play my team anymore. I'm not going to buy your packs. I'm going to play my my career because, you know, that has my park on it, but I'm not going to play my team because it cost a crap ton of money to get good players, to get Amethyst, to get Ruby, to get Emerald, to get Sapphire players. Are you kidding me? I need to end on a good note. I need to end on a positive note. Now, unfortunately, the positive list is very short, so bear with me on this. But the first company and the first developer that's going to be on this list is EA. Right? I know. Shocker, I know, EA. But why EA? EA released FIFA and Madden, and it didn't release NBA Live because it was, you know, such a bad game sales-wise that they had to, you know, push it back to next year, or this year technically. Why EA? Well, Battlefield 1. EA proved that you don't need to take a year off. They released Battlefield Hardline last year. And not even Battlefield Hardline, excuse me, Battlefront last year. And that was a terrible game. And do you want to know what? Battlefield 1 was a really good game. EA does not take time off. They want to make their money. But damn it, they did a great job with Battlefield 1, and they deserve to be applauded for it because they proved that you don't need to take a year off if you're going to have an annual release. But they do have the facilities, by the way, to continually pump out annual releases. Now, whether the branch of their company that worked on Battlefield 1 will be working on Battlefront 2 that will apparently be released this year, I don't think so. And I do expect Battlefront 2 to not be as good. But for now, EA is in a lukewarm position for me. They did create a very good game this last year. Next up on my list, no surprise, Naughty Dog. And these two were on the negative list, right? I know, it's confusing. But both EA and Naughty Dog, they did something exceptional this year. They released a game that was great. And let me put it to you like this. It's hard to constantly release great games. It's very hard. Look at Santa Monica Studios with the God of War series. I don't know where their head was at when they released God of War Ascension. But it was that they released God of War 1. Boom. Excellent game. God of War 2. Boom. Really great game. God of War 3 closed the series off in such a fantastic light that it's just like I thought that the series was ended after that point. Then they released Ascension, and it was terrible compared to the 3 other games that were released. Take Ubisoft in the Assassin's Creed series. Take Square Enix or Squaresoft, now Square Enix, with the Final Fantasy series. Naughty Dog has released 2 games in the past 4 years that are masterpieces. That's a biennial release. That's one game every 2 years that is a masterpiece. That's timeless. I could play The Last of Us and Uncharted 4 20 years later and it would still be as good. I can't play Madden 20 years later because there's probably going to be 20 more Maddens. They're trying, I wouldn't say that they're trying, but their level of excellence is very reminiscent of what Squaresoft was doing in the 1990s, where they were releasing Final Fantasy 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. They were releasing games like Chrono Trigger, that's one of the best JRPGs of all time, one of the best RPGs of all time. They released Xenogears, a really fantastic RPG, one of the best JRPGs of all time. And it's like their list, and the list of like JRPGs, the best JRPGs of all time, are all in like the 1990s, and they're all made by one developer, and that's Squaresoft. And Naughty Dog is doing a lot of really good things this year and last year and 4 years ago when they released The Last of Us. So I'm excited to see what Naughty Dog has next, even though that small little blemish of microtransactions was on their resume last year. It's still not that huge of a problem right now. It will be if they continue that practice. But for right now, it's a small little blemish on an overall great development company. Or developing company. Next on this list, CD Projekt Red, The Witcher 3. Holy hell. You know, The Witcher 3 is my favorite game of all time. I'm not slacking. I really do like I love The Witcher 3. Good God. I could go on and on and on about The Witcher 3, but I won't, because I could literally take an hour, and I really want to cut this video to as short as it can so I don't take you for that long. But The Witcher 3 and CD Projekt Red released the DLC for The Witcher 3 in Blood and Wine. And the Blood and Wine DLC, I will admit, is probably the weakest gameplay, and it has not necessarily the weakest gameplay, the weakest story, I think, in the Witcher series. But it beats the crap out of most games. The DLC, not the main game, the DLC beats most full-on games, and it's not even $20. It's not $20. And you pay $60 for a game that doesn't even work. And they're like, nope, we got you. You only have to pay $9. When I bought it, I had to pay $19. I cannot say. And on top of that, they give you a thank you card when you buy the game. When you buy it, The Witcher 3. There's a thank you card, there's a map, there's a CD soundtrack, but that was in 2015. But I still have to talk about it. CD Projekt Red, just the gold standard for game development, and for game developers. Next up on the list, Chucklefish Games. If you have no idea what Chucklefish Games is and who they are and what game they made this year, they made Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley is a Harvest Moon-esque game. It is very addictive. It has multiple layers, and it is a farming simulator that is very, 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 very great. And I know what you're saying. Well, 24. Why is this on your list? I thought you said big developers. Well, like Concept Games and Mighty Number 9, this developer, Chucklefish Games, did something that the bigger companies, the bigger developers and publishers are looking at. Because remember what I said, big developers are looking at two things when they're looking at indie level developers and publishers. They're looking at ways to make money, which Concept Games, demonstrated, but also new and innovative ways to improve their games. And sometimes looking at innovation, you need to look back. And Chucklefish Games did a fantastic job, and I hope that their practice and looking back on the past is what game developers do in the future. Next up is Firaxis Games and XCOM 2. Surprisingly, I know, right? Again, that was a game company that was on my negative list, but they did such a fantastic job with XCOM 2. I understand that they want to put it on PC only, but in reality, it deserved to be on consoles as well. They said that it wasn't going to be on consoles. They've released it because of their sales. I personally think that the premise that they weren't going to make enough money because their game was, if they released it on consoles, is stupid. But they finally said, you know what, we deserve it. We deserve it to our console fans, so we're gonna let them get XCOM 2 on consoles. So Firaxis does need to be applauded for that. I think that if they're going to make another game, another XCOM, which they should not do that idiotic practice with putting it on PC first and assuming that that it should only be for PC, especially when the gameplay is so much alike, except you can add mods. That's literally the only good thing about, that's literally the only difference between PC and consoles. It's a huge difference, but it's the only difference. Next up on the list is, and I'm gonna butcher the name, Numinous Games. That Dragon Cancer. It was the developer that released That Dragon Cancer. Now, this is a very powerful segment for me. This one is a very powerful game. I won't spoil what happens in That Dragon Cancer, but you may have already heard of it by now. But Numinous Games, they did something that really personifies why I love video games. They and I remember reading this quote from Stephen King, and he said that reading books were like a form of telepathy. You know, his thoughts reach your mind as the reader over a span of distance, whether it's 3,000 miles, 100 miles, 200 miles, and over a span of time. And if books are like telepathy when it comes to, you know, when it comes to communication, then video games are the personification of imagination, because you can literally create what's in your mind and put it on a screen for people to love and to enjoy and to hold and to keep forever.
Guys, it's not good.
And Numinous Games did that perfectly. I cannot applaud them more for their accomplishments that they did last year. I cannot applaud them more for their determination to create a very great game about a very heartwarming story. I can't applaud them anymore. On to the final game and the final developer that's on this list. It's Overwatch by Blizzard. Now, Blizzard and even Overwatch has microtransactions in it. It has unfortunately the tendency to have loot boxes in the game. But I think Overwatch is such a very good and great game. It brings a lot of very previous themes back to light with the actual look of the game. It looks a lot like Team Fortress 2, and the gameplay, it has so many different levels to it, but it's so easy to get into, and it's so addictive, and the matches are so quick, and etc, etc, when it comes to that game, that really a lot of things, a lot of aspects about that game can be forgiven entirely. Especially when it comes to the microtransactions, which really, well, remember what I was talking about, microtransactions with Square Enix and Naughty Dog, and how, not even Square Enix, excuse me, with Naughty Dog and EA and Ubisoft when it comes to Unity, and how they would be a block, they would be a deterrent to your game. And in all honesty, the microtransactions, they aren't a deterrent. You actually get some pretty good stuff when it comes to the loot boxes, which you get when you level up, which is not very difficult, especially if you play the game for a very long time. You could, like, I already had like 31 boxes that I could open, and I haven't paid a dime for it. I paid money for the game, but for the loot boxes, I don't need to pay any money for it, because I know that I can get the loot boxes every single time I level up, and leveling up is not very difficult. All you have to do is play the game. So them not having a barrier when it comes to gameplay within the loot boxes, with them not changing the way the game is played in an effort to force you as the player to buy microtransactions, is a feat I think deserves to be applauded, especially with their game and it being one of the most interesting esports, I think, to come out of 2016, as well as the simple fact that I think that it could easily overtake League of Legends if Blizzard really, really wants to. If they really keep at it, I think that it can easily overtake League of Legends. And on top of that, I'm a huge fan of the game. I just love it a lot. And it's a great thing to see a company that hasn't really been in form with one of their best series, and that's StarCraft 2, and kind of fall flat on its face in its first attempt with MOBAs really in the past couple of years, and that's Heroes of the Storm. I think that them creating a first-person shooter like MOBA Arena is just fantastic, and Overwatch and Blizzard deserves to be applauded for it. This has been 24, a pretty weird year for 2016. Donald Trump got elected president. That just came out of left field. A lot of celebrities died, like Muhammad Ali and Prince, and Rogue One was really great. I didn't know if it was going to be really great, but man, that year was a really good year. Hopefully 2017 will be a fantastic year. Again, tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday, I will be releasing 2 videos that are going to be about hopefully my strive to platinum in Overwatch, because I've never been to platinum before in a game. So until tomorrow, until Saturday and Sunday, have a fantastic day. I'll see you next time.